Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show, or welcome back if you've been a listener before. We really appreciate you being here. And today is another special Jess and Jan episode where Jess takes over the mic, and I've gotten to really love these episodes because I'm not in control, and I've learned that I really love not being in control. And today, in addition to Jess having questions about intuition for me, we have a couple of announcements to make. One is about something that I hope will be very special and fun. I'm very excited about it, and so is Jess, I think. We're doing... Thank you. We're doing a live version for the first time ever of my intuition course. And it's next month, September 2019. And so we're doing some promotion for it. And I'll tell you all about that at the end of the episode today. And we also have a new Facebook group. And Jess will be telling you all about that. So I'm done. It's all over to Jess now.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jess Tholmer. If you have listened before, we have done a couple of these, and they are always very fun. So, like Jan just said, we're going to be talking about intuition primarily, but we will start with the announcements. So, the Facebook group.
Yes.
Is it there?
Yes, please.
Incidental Joy Seekers is the name of a Facebook group that we have very recently launched, as in kind of soft launched maybe last week, but we have a couple of members now. I will tell you how to find it, but just a little brief background. Incidental Joy Seekers, if you follow Jan's social media, it's something that we've referred to before. It's a phrase that Jan coined, and it's just a very nice, pleasant idea behind just sharing things that bring joy to the world, which I think that we can all agree is something that we could all use more of. Just focusing, just in very Jan terms, focusing on your life through joy. The group will be just to share those things, the big things, the small things, just anything that brings you joy. The Incidental Joy Seekers is going to be whatever the community kind of makes it. Finding joy, seeking joy, and sharing it with each other. I'm really excited. I love that phrase. The first time Jan said it to me, it just lit up the room. So if you're not familiar with Facebook groups, it's not as hard to join the group as Jan and I had a hard time at first. But if you go to Jan's Facebook page, which is Jan L. Bowen author, actually is the tag. It's the very first thing under home. So you can click groups and find it there. But there is a URL, a custom URL. So Facebook groups / Incidental Joy Seekers is going to be the way to find it. We might be inviting people. We really encourage people to request to join. It is a closed group, so whatever members want to share will just be among the Incidental Joy Seekers community. Jan has written kind of a welcome intro that kind of explains the point of the group, which I just went over a little bit, but also just kind of the reminder of the guidelines, which is just, it's a nice, joyful, positive place. And it will stay that way. So I don't think we'll have any problems there, but it's good to know. So yeah, we really, really highly encourage people to seek it out. If you have any problems finding it, you can reach out to us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, wherever. We can help point you there, but we're really, really excited about it. So that's that. Okay. And now for the for our other announcement. No, we're going to talk about that later. Yes. Okay. So now we're going to get into the questions. All right. So if you listened, and I hope you did, to our last conversation, we did a call for our community to ask us any questions that they might have about intuition. I'm saying us, but it's for Jan to answer. This time around, we kind of did something similar, but our last conversation kind of inspired some of these other questions that we just didn't get around to just for time. So some of these questions are inspired by our previous conversation, influenced by questions that we got from the community, as well as questions that I just personally have, as well as just general intuition questions that I think end up coming up when, if you even just try to self-research. So we're gonna go ahead and I will be asking Jan these questions, and she will go ahead and give her personal answers, her professional answers. If you remember from last time, she does not really like the word expert, but I kind of consider Jan an expert on intuition. So we're gonna go ahead and start now. So the first question that was inspired by the last conversation that we had, it's something that I wish I had asked, is, Jan, are there any intuition guides you can recommend? And that could be just any kind of resource, that not necessarily a book, but any kind of resource that you've found helpful in further developing your intuition or understanding it.
There's lots that's been helpful, but I wouldn't say specifically about intuition as a topic, because I didn't find much specifically on the topic in the past. What I have found helpful is things on meditation, things on quantum physics, things on topics that broadened my perspective and allowed me to think differently and tune into myself in a way that had deeper questions and forced me to ask those questions and listen to what I later understood was my intuition. So some specifically were Shakti Gawan, which I think that is how you pronounce it. It's spelled Shakti. She's a classic writer, Gawan, Gawain, and recordings by her as well on visualizations, guided visualizations. Creative Visualization is the name of her landmark publication. I think she was the first person who really taught me how to do creative guided visualizations, and it was life-changing. So I highly recommend her if someone's looking for that as a start. Meditation is often something that, as I've said before, people struggle with. And so a guided visualization might be more effective and helpful for somebody who struggles with meditation itself. And she is just so skilled. Yeah.
That's great. Just out of curiosity, so if you discovered her a while ago, I'm assuming.
I did.
And you still refer back? Is it still like a resource that you use, or you just feel like you're kind of?
I do. She is still, I don't listen to her tapes anymore because I do my own thing. And she was on tape, and now she has MP3s. But I do look at her books. Still, yeah. There are a few more recent books, and they also have recordings, but I have enjoyed their books more. Again, it's not on intuition, but it gets into more of who we are and how we are. And to me, it gets more into what intuition is, in my opinion. And the individuals that I look to for that are Joe Dispenza, Dispenza. And what he has really explored is how our physical body connects with the non-physical in this world. And to me, that's been really illuminating because it combines the science of it. And the other person that's done a similar sort of study of consciousness and the physical body and all is Greg Braden. And those individuals have been very, very helpful and useful to me. Yeah.
That's great. And Joe Dispenza and Greg Braden, they have books?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, And recordings. Okay. Yeah. My next question was about books that you've read that have impacted you on intuition or meditation or anything kind of in that same field. So
There's more.
those two. There's more. Okay, great.
Specifically more on intuition, I think. Although
Sure.
I think the first writer on intuition that I would say I really liked because of the way she's so real. And she started writing probably in the first wave of these sorts of topics and is still writing. And she writes so honestly. Sonia Choquette, Sonia, Choquette, Choquette. I
Very
love her
pretty name.
honesty. It's a beautiful name, yeah. And
Oh.
she is just very authentic. She writes with the challenges. She writes about all the challenges that go along with listening to the intuitive voice, as well as the growth and incredible gifts that go along with it. And then another classic gift to our world that many, many people know as well is Judith Orloff, a physician who's also contributed a lot to the science of intuition and many other things. But yeah, I like her work too. That's just a few.
Great. Yeah, yeah. I'm sure there's a lot out there. I was just thinking, if you try to self-research intuition books, it kind of gets overwhelming, and it's not always exactly what people that follow your work are probably interested in. So
Right.
it's nice to have those kind of resources. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, great. I've heard Judith Orloff's name, but not the rest of them. So I'm interested in looking those up.
Yeah.
This is a big question, and it's something that we brushed on at the very end of our last podcast on intuition. Something that you said that you thought I was going to ask you.
Is that your dog?
What? Yeah, I didn't know that there was a squeaker in that chew toy. What is this is when I was doing a little research myself. This is one of the questions that is asked most frequently. So what do you think the difference is between being psychic and being intuitive?
It's a personal opinion. You know, everybody, not everybody, but people do differ in how they define these terms. My view on the two is that intuition is really a skill that we all have as humans, or the ability that we have to develop as humans. I look at intuition as something that is very much part of us. It's within us, in a sense, in a way. Psychic ability and being psychic, I look at very differently. I look at it as using your intuitive ability to tune in to other messages, other entities, whether it might be, again, it depends on your belief system. Angels, celestial beings, guides, other entities. And that is how I define being psychic, where it's not necessarily coming from you. It's coming from another place, what you're receiving.
Right. That makes sense to me. You mentioned it briefly the last time we chatted about this, but I think you've said something like other voices and intuition is like your inner voice, which I think helped clear it up for me, because I've always kind of at least put them in the same ballpark, intuitiveness and psychicness. And I know people that kind of use them interchangeably, but it never quite feels like the right thing. So I think that's a really clear way of phrasing it. Which is really interesting. So it's a good question. That people really wonder that a lot when I was doing my research. That comes up a lot.
Well, it's also very challenging if you are receiving different input to hear the distinction between them. You know, what is coming from your intuitive wisdom and what is coming from another place if you're getting information, and how do you know?
Right.
You know, that's a very, that's why it can be, and this is something that I am going to promote my course a little bit in my answers, because that's one of the things we're doing. But that is one that's one of the things that I think is so important, is to know how and what you consider your intuition. It's not
Yes.
just for, you need to be able to know what you think your intuition is. It doesn't matter if it agrees with what, you just don't have to agree with how I define it. But for you
Sure.
yourself, you need to do that if you then want to fully develop it. That's
That totally
why.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why you said this last time too, is that it's so deeply personal, like, which I appreciate too when you're answering even these questions, even though you know what you're talking about. It's like personal opinion, personal experience, because as I'm learning through you in these conversations, it is really personal to each person. There's not like a clear cut, here's your like intuition packet, like go, like it's
Right.
very much about figuring out what works and where you're feeling it, and how you communicate with your intuition versus other people. And I do think that that's kind of a missing piece for a lot of people that are interested in intuition but haven't quite delved into it yet. I think that they're looking for those blanket answers, especially when I've just kind of researched. I've noticed that a lot. People just kind of looking for like, just tell me how I find it, which is that's understand. It's like the instant gratification thing, but with intuition, that doesn't really seem like the best way to go about it.
No. And one of the reasons it won't really work well for long term is because, in my opinion, if intuition is very much a part of us,
Mm-hmm.
without getting to know ourself well, that
Right.
instant gratification won't pan out. It
Right.
takes having that deep knowledge and comfort with ourself in order to have
Right.
that deep growth and comfort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instant gratification is most of the time not something that works. So
Sadly.
yeah, I understand. I'm definitely a person that wishes that was
Sure.
more realistic.
Yeah.
But
I like candy and easy answers too, but
of course, who doesn't? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. This is kind of switching gears a little bit, but do you believe, or in your experience, have you felt that an intuitive person, someone that really is in tune with their own intuition, do you believe that those people are often drawn toward other intuitive people?
Huh. That's an interesting question. No, I don't. I think that we have more comfort when we feel recognized. There's a
Yeah.
real lovely sort of, oh, you get me, and it's a fun connection. But what I really believe is that there is just as much of a draw with someone who is wanting an intuitive person to see what they're not able to recognize in themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so somebody who's really hurting and lacking will often pull towards an intuitive person because they need that more. It's like, draw that out of me.
That's like the total opposite answer that I expected. That's really interesting.
Mm.
And I really like that we have more comfort when we feel recognized. I think that applies to a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that a lot. Um, this is another thing that we sort of brushed on last time, but something I'm personally curious about. How do you believe that intuition connects with your dreams or your subconscious, not necessarily your sleeping dreams, but your daydreams, or just kind of where your mind goes when you're at your, like, when you're not in control of it?
Well, I don't know the science, but
Sure.
I do think this really gets into the science of it all, because I think that our intuition is what I have termed for myself as like a super sense, where it
Hmm.
takes in, the picture that I have created for my own self is that our intuition draws on all the input that it has from our physical being, from our mental being, from the outside world. And our intuition is that incredibly adept part of taking all that in. So when we sleep, it still has all that knowledge. Now, how it filters that out,
Mm.
I don't know, but it no longer needs the physical body. So I believe that it's able to transcend the physical realm. And even as I'm saying this, I really believe strongly that there's some aspect of this being very, very true. I think
Mm-hmm.
we're able to transcend the physical realm because all that intelligence that it has is freer to then go into other aspects of the knowledge that it also possesses because it's
Wow.
not required in the physical realm. But how it does that, I don't really know. And I don't know the science. I just think it has a different way of accessing.
Yeah, well, that's really interesting. Yeah, because when I was researching and just generally speaking, in my life, I've had these dreams, and it's dreams are pretty wild if you really want to think about it, but it's not that crazy to think like the night before a big event, you have a stress dream. That's like pretty common.
Right.
But it is kind of interesting because you do have those dreams sometimes where it's like you dream about a thing and then the next day that thing happens, or you dream about a person you haven't even thought about, like actively thought about in so long, and then like the next day you see them. And when I was a kid, I'd be like, I'm psychic because like this thing happened in a dream. Um, but it's not really like psychic, is it? It's not like that's not being psychic necessarily, but it is an interesting connection. Like there's something about dreams and the subconscious that feels,
So
it's just,
in that way,
yeah.
that's real specific. I think that, and this I believe is more of explainable sort of web, where
Mm-hmm.
we in life are all interconnected, and it's time that we only have a linear explanation for, and that maybe we don't know. Maybe it's very fluid, but that we're actually able to flip in and out of time within periods somewhat more fluidly than our linear mind can wrap around. And what is a day, really? It's something we've constructed to be able to hold
Right.
on to and not go crazy, literally. I mean, no joke.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and perhaps our intelligence, our creative intelligence, has the ability to know at some level that our future self will be doing this, or may be doing this, or has the ability to do this. And maybe from time to time, a little bit of us lifts a shade or a window or something and gets a glimpse of it. And I think when we see people or think of people or something, I believe strongly that's a heart connection, and we do have a resonance. This has been measured, and this is a scientific measurement by heart math, where when we're connected to people, we resonate with them electromagnetically, and so we can
Oh,
communicate with people all over the world and know what they're thinking, know what they're feeling. Um, that is just something that is true.
wow. I love that.
Yeah,
Wow.
me too.
You said, yeah, that's great. I mean, that's a really nice thought to have, especially when things feel really divided. That's like a very reassuring
Mhm. And
thing
we
to
can
know is,
use that. I mean, that one is, one of those that we can actually take and enhance and foster and use.
yeah, that's really just, that's beautiful. You said super sense to refer to intuition. And my next question was, do you consider your intuition to be a sort of a sixth sense? 'Cause I've seen a lot of people refer to their intuition as a sixth sense.
I don't remember who first coined that term sixth sense, and I remember when it was.
Hmm.
Books. There was a book, The Sixth Sense, and it might have been by Judith Orloff or um, one of the classic writers. I don't agree that it is the sixth sense. I do think it's a super sense. And one of the things that um, you learn in developing psychic ability is tuning into what's called the clairs. And the clairs are tuning into super hearing, super sight, all those different things. And my
Mm.
opinion is we use our five senses in order to tune in even deeper to our intuition or to a psychic ability. And so if we're doing that, this is why I think it's a super sense. If we're using our other senses to enhance or develop our intuitive ability or our psychic ability, isn't our intuition more than a sixth sense if it's integrating what we already have?
Wow. Yeah. No, that makes a ton of sense. It's more like enhancing what we have than adding
Or
a totally separate entity.
yeah, or somehow it's like a supra sense, you know.
Mhm.
That's how I think of it.
Yeah, I think that totally makes sense. That's really interesting. I did not make a Sixth Sense movie joke there, but I wanted to. I just feel like I should
Go for
acknowledge
it.
that. I was going to say Bruce Willis. I meant to the Sixth Sense.
I think
I only saw it once when I was too young to even really understand it.
maybe his opinions change too. Who knows?
Maybe it could be very intuitive.
Who knows?
Do you think this is probably going to be a pretty like personal answer, but do you think there's a bad way to talk to your intuition? Like, is there a way to really, and you talked last time, for those who didn't listen or maybe just need the reminder of the different ways that you talk to your intuition, and there's a lot. You can literally talk out loud to it. Do you think there is a bad way to, I should say, communicate rather than talk to your intuition?
I'm going to turn that question around a little bit. I don't think there's a bad way to talk to it or communicate to it. I do think there's something we all need to caution ourselves with, though, when we communicate with it. And I think that is if we give our personal power away. And I see this happening. I think it's a real risk. And what I mean by that is because intuition has so much potential for us, there can be a tendency to give everything over to it as if it's a god, whether you say God with a capital G or a small g. And intuition isn't in any school that I know of intended for that. It is to work with you. And every individual still has full sovereignty and leadership and power. And I do think it's, the word bad isn't one that I would have used that terminology, but I really do think it's a risk and to be cautioned about giving over your personal power to it. It's to work with. And what I said earlier about intuition is, in my opinion, us. It's our highest version. It's our inner wisdom. So if we think of it, in whatever terms you want, our best self, our highest self, whatever, turning it over as a omnipotent power just isn't the way to go.
Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, I said just for the listeners, I had bad in quotes because I mean, they're good and bad. It's too arbitrary, really. But yeah, I mean that makes sense. It's that the way that you phrase that is pretty much what I was looking for. Is there a dangerous or an unhelpful way of interacting? Which is, that makes a lot of sense. Again, you did reference some of this in our last conversation, but do you have any examples of questions to ask your intuition or kind of like prompts to communicate with your intuition for people that are just really having a hard time with it?
In general, anything goes. I mean, seriously, anything goes. Talk to it like it's your best friend, because it is. Open-ended questions. So how or what? And even something like, what should I do now? Or how do I get through this? But the more vague and open-ended it is, I mean, I know I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth here, but the more vague it is, the harder it is to know if you're getting an answer. So another thing to do is but still, I'm still firm on that, ask those sorts of things, and then follow it up with a very specific request for a sign of some sort.
Right.
Because you will get that. And it's not flaky when you are asking and getting a sign. What happens is your brain will start registering for that as you're looking for it. And that's how you get into alignment. Everything's about getting your brain and body and body, mind, spirit in alignment,
Right.
And so that's what you're doing with intuition. So ask for a sign that only you will recognize that's really important. You don't say, when I'm out, let me see a dog on a leash, because
Right.
you see 12,
Sure.
But you
Don't
might,
ask for something. Oh, yeah.
but you might say, let me see a pit bull on a red leash.
Right. Oh.
Oh.
This pickle has a red leash. That freaked me out a little.
I know. Sorry. So, you can do really specific things and ask questions like that, but make them practical to you or they won't mean anything, and then you'll discount them. That's what I suggest.
Okay. Yeah.
Start small.
You said this last time, but you can see like a sign could be like the song that plays, or like the book title you see on your bookshelf when you first glance over or whatever. Like, I really like that phrasing, because it doesn't have to be like, okay, if the thunderclouds roll in right now and it rains in the middle of August, even though that's a bad example because it kind of looks like it's going to do that right now, but you know what I mean? Like, not something that's totally
random.
Something that you can just, yeah, exactly. Something that is a little bit more plausible, which I think was that really stuck with me from last conversation. So I wanted to call out again.
That's my favorite, the songs.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think songs are so, I mean, I'm a book person, I know you're a book person too, so like books are emotional to me as well, but songs are so personal. Like a song to you, it could be your least favorite song, it could be like the song that means the most to me. Like, it's very interesting to kind of seek that out in music, just to kind of let yourself, be guided by whatever that is. That's really that's appealing to me. I think there's something kind of romantic about that. Is there someone, this might be somebody that you already mentioned earlier too, but is there somebody that you consider your intuition guide, or someone that you just look up to in regards to like the work they've done around intuition? That could be like somebody that or one of the authors you mentioned earlier. Is there just somebody that's just kind of inspired you in your intuition?
This is going to sound really bad. Yes and no. Mostly no, but I want to explain that. Yes, in the sense of I really like the people that have done the combination of explaining the physical and how it connects with the non-physical, like Joe Dispenza and Greg Braden. That's where my learning really happened. And the reason some of the others didn't connect all that much with me was because my journey, and I'm not saying this is true for everybody, but my journey needed to be from within. And when I would read other writers, it really didn't click for me. I had to learn it for myself. And when I would look for, when I would read, how to do a guided visualization, that was helpful because that was a tool to help me learn how to do it myself, because I needed to do it for myself. But that's my journey in life. My journey in life is that I have the path of learning how to do things myself in order to teach them. We all have our own processes, and that's my process. So my intuition was to learn it for myself, not to have a master teacher teach me. And this course really came out of encouraging others to learn it from within.
That's a perfect segue, because I was going to say, from someone that's pretty experienced with your course, you don't say like, do this thing. It's more like encouraging people to let go, to like focus on certain aspects that are just more about being a human than anything else, which I think, um, as far as everything that I've learned about intuition, is it seems like the most effective way, because it's not cut and dry.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty fair. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like with everything that I have learned for myself, we are united in the fact that we're humans, but we're
Mm-hmm.
each individual. So we have our individual idiosyncrasies, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Those special little things about us require us to have different needs. So if any of us try to tell anybody else how to do something because it's the way, it doesn't mean it's the way for them. And so
Mm-mm.
intuition absolutely isn't going to work like that either. We can take in information and it might have some gems in there for us, and that's fabulous. But one
Sure.
guide, in my opinion, isn't going to do it. But you can
Yeah.
learn
No,
this.
yeah,
Yeah,
that totally makes sense. So you have this intuition course.
I do.
Um, yes, it is called How to Hear What You Know, a course on developing your intuition to practically guide you through life.
Yes.
Um, I'm sure people that follow you pretty closely or listen to our intuition conversations or follow social media have definitely seen clips of it or like heard the title. But for people that maybe just aren't as familiar, um, what can someone expect to take away from your course on intuition?
Well, well, the way I answer that, well, it's really designed, like we were just saying, to encourage people to develop their own intuition in their own way. And what I start with is what I had said before about defining it for yourself, so that you start with deciding what you think it is. You know, do you think it's a higher power within, talking to you? And there's no judgment about any of it. Who says any of us is right, by the way? I mean, really,
Right.
could all be crazy.
We could
Um,
all be crazy.
yeah, I mean, seriously.
Seems
Uh,
likely.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think so. Um, and so we start with that as step one in the course. Define it for yourself. And from there, then it goes through a four-step process. I say there's three steps, and then a non-optional fourth step, which is taking action, because you can talk about stuff all day long. Um, but then within that process, the three steps, there's lots of choice. There's three steps, but how you do those three steps is totally your choice, depending on how you're built.
Mhm.
Um, and then in the course, there's lots of, how do I know if this is intuition, or how do I know if it's emotion? And how do I block it? How do I unblock it? Um, what, what is this? What is that? How do I clear it? That kind of thing. Um, and why even you want to?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a huge part of it for me. I remember when you first launched this course and I started to familiarize myself with it. I think it really truly covers everything that somebody would need to access, or at least start to really feel like they're comfortable with talking to their intuition.
Mhm.
And I think that last thing you said, why you'd even want to, or why you would even need to, like, I think that really is, it's targeted, it's direct, and it's clear, which is like, if someone is just trying to internet research intuition, it's just this mass of like differing information. You can get 7 different answers for the same question. And it's not, like you said earlier, like, we could all be wrong, but this, to me, this intuition course is like the most clear way and personal way to really kind of start to feel more comfortable. So people that are already interested in getting in touch with their intuition or becoming more intuitive, if they already think that they are, um, I think it's a really smart way to kind of go about it rather than trying to just like rapidly look on the internet like I do all day long, and just some things you just can't internet research. And I really truly think intuition is one of those things that's pretty tough. So
And this has worksheets and techniques and meditations and everything there. There's videos. The live course will be me doing the classes live. There will be the instruction, and there will be time for questions. And I'm really generous with time. So it's an hour and a half, but I'm always really generous with time. Um,
yeah,
and lots of materials and lots of personal attention. So
yeah,
I think if anybody is interested, um, I'm passionate about it. I'm excited about it.
yeah.
It was just, I'm sold on it. I mean, I don't know what.
Yeah, I mean, I am too. I mean, every Wednesday I do a little clip from the course that I've watched a lot of. I know the tangible resources are really special. Like a talking head into about intuition, and you're so you know what you're talking about. You're so passionate about it, which really comes through. But those extra resources where people can really sit down and work with themselves, I think that's really unique. I really do. And I think that's something that people who are interested in this, if someone's listening to this, I'm assuming they're interested in intuition and your work, or they're just really supportive, which is great too. But I think that the intuition course is really right in line with like what we're talking about here. And yeah, I mean, I would highly recommend for someone that is just kind of looking to take that next step, that it's a really, really good way to do that. How did you come up with the title? So the intuition course is called How to Hear What You Know. Is that something that you thought about for a long time, something that you just went with? Because I think it's really it's really appropriate for what the intuition course is.
It came to me like the whole course came to me in one
Yeah.
big answer,
Mm-hmm.
which is how all of my stuff usually happens.
Yeah.
So you can call it intuitive, you can call it psychic, whatever you want to say. I was
Yeah.
thinking, I need a title for this. And I went on a walk, and How to Hear What You Know was just boom. And I tried it out. I think I had a couple other thoughts that I don't even remember what they were now. And I asked a few people, and they were, no, How to Hear What You Know. And I even asked a couple editors and publishers and such, and they said, no, that's great. And I liked it, but sometimes I get personally attached to things, often because I think they're funny, and sometimes funny isn't effective. But this one was okay, so I kept it.
That is great. I really love it. Um, on your website is where you can find, let's see here, scrolling up, How to Hear What You Know is on Jan's website.
Yep.
So if you can very easily find it there by going to, sorry, I'm in the courses here. In the course,
the link?
yeah, I was going to say
The link to sign up?
the link to sign.
It's
I
bit.ly.
have,
Do you want that one?
yeah, let's do that.
Because it's short. bit.ly/ for, those are all the bit.ly ones, right? And then we can just use Intuition Course Live.
Intuition Course Live. That is, whoops, I have to drop my laptop here. That is a URL that is up right now.
Yes.
So when you're listening to this, you can head over there. It has all of the information that somebody might want to know. Price, a description of what the course is going to offer people, the time slots, and you can just purchase it right from that link as well. I would definitely encourage everyone to at least check it out. It is, in my opinion, a very good deal. It's a ton of information, and like Jan said, and she doesn't talk herself up as well as I do, but she is very, very in touch with her community. So anybody that signs up for this has access to this course. And Jan knows what she's talking about, and she is super helpful. So I definitely think that it's worth your time if you're interested in intuition. And just check out the website too, if you're curious, because it's janellbowen.com is the website in general. She has a ton of resources on there, stuff that she's written and everything, but the intuition stuff is on there. The bit.ly link that she just gave is where you can find the live course. And I definitely encourage everyone to at least check it out, because I think it's a ton of information for a really affordable price, and I think it's worth everyone's time to at least check it out. So,
thank you.
You are welcome. I know you wouldn't say that, but I mean that. So,
thank you. And it's the only time we've done this, so it's an adventure. We've never done a live course.
Yeah, and I should also mention Jan is like a really fun person to work with too. So it's like that's the thing when looking for intuition information, just me on a personal level, either for personal interest or just like to prepare for these kinds of conversations. It can feel a little stuffy. Jan is not a stuffy person at all. So I would not stuffy, and especially in a live course. Jan's a really fun person. We were joking earlier about doing a Honest with Jan L. Bowen episode, which would probably be shocking for some people, because Jan is just fun. And intuition is really important, but also Jan takes everything she's got a good sense of humor. So I think it'll be really fun. I'm really, really excited about it. So.
Me too. So September 10 is the first day too. So don't delay. If you're interested, join us soon, right?
Yeah, that's just a tiny bit over a month.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. So definitely. And we will, for people that listen and are following us on social, we'll definitely promote the course and stuff. So if you didn't jot down that bit.ly link, you'll be able to find it in the show notes of this podcast episode and on our social channels. So we'll be able to get that to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back soon, and I'll be back with a regular episode as well. Bye for now. Thanks, Jess.